GameCube is, understandably, considered one of the least important Nintendo home consoles, only below the Wii U and, if we're counting it, the Virtual Boy. The N64 that came before the GameCube revolutionized 3D gaming, and the Wii that came after it brought gaming to a casual market. Despite this, the GameCube continues to be my favorite Nintendo console of all time. The GameCube was released in North America on November 18, 2001, when I was only 5 months old. While I was too young to even play video games when it released, it would be what I would spend a lot of my time on growing up. Games such as Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Paper Mario, and Wind Waker would define my childhood. But while I thought the GameCube was the best thing I ever played, the public had a different opinion. While the public opinion of the GameCube doesn't directly affect my opinion, it isn't a bad idea to contrast how I feel to what everyone else feels, and can give me a better foundation for why I feel how I feel. The GameCube, to put it lightly, wasn't very popular, both sales-wise and critically. While the actual critical reception of the GameCube wasn't too bad, it divided Nintendo's fan base, with many calling it the worst Nintendo home console to date. This wasn't blind hate, however. The mini DVDs felt like such a step back compared to what the PlayStation and Xbox were doing, and just limited how much space you could fit on it. Also, Nintendo has had a track record of innovation, or at least attempts at innovation. The NES revived the home gaming market in America, and the N64 innovated both 3D gaming and analog sticks on controllers. Even the Virtual Boy attempted to innovate the gaming scene, albeit unsuccessfully. That's not even mentioning the multiple Nintendo games that influenced multiple genres of gaming. The GameCube didn't really try to innovate much at all. This is especially bad when, in comparison, the PS2 pushed consoles to do more than play games, when it allowed you to watch movies on it, and when the Xbox brought online gaming into the mainstream. It seemed like Nintendo wasn't really interested in pushing the boundaries. While by no means was the GameCube a financial failure, or the lowest selling Nintendo console, it paled in comparison to previous consoles, and it made Nintendo look like it was losing its sights on what made their console so amazing in the first place. While people have generally warmed up to the GameCube in retrospect, this is partly due to the fact that the people who grew up with it are now grown. Even with the warmer reception, it still seems like just a small console compared to the giant that was the PS2, which is the best-selling console of all time. I can certainly agree that the GameCube had many faults. The mini-disc certainly held back, to a certain extent, what the GameCube could do, and while a video game console doesn't have to be innovative to be good, it felt like Nintendo was now the one who had to play catch-up to the other consoles. When just 10 years ago, they were the most groundbreaking company in the gaming industry. But while these things are true, the GameCube had a lot of things that I actually loved about it. For one, the GameCube had an amazing design. I love how compact it is. There are many different variations of colors that look fantastic. The overall design just looked nice and simple with its cube shape. And of course, the handle on the back, which made it easy to bring it with you to anywhere you need to go. I love it for the same reasons I love the slim PS2 model, the simplicity. And what I mean by that is that it was strictly a gaming console that was simple to use. You set it up, put in the game and play. Which was how every console was at the time. But the small and compact design of the GameCube complemented this really well. I could easily bring it to a friend's house, we hook it up to any TV, and play one of the many multiplayer games that the GameCube had to offer. If there is one thing that Nintendo has always gotten right, it was multiplayer gaming, and the GameCube was no exception. Super Smash Bros. Melee still has a strong community. F-Zero GX, Legend of Zelda 4 Swords, the Mario Party games, and of course Mario Kart Double Dash, and etc. Keep in mind that these are only Nintendo first-party exclusives. There are plenty of other fantastic third-party multiplayer games. This includes one of my all-time favorites, SSX3. Despite the compact design, the GameCube still had 4 controller ports, something the PS2 Slim didn't have. This made party games so much simpler without having to get an adapter for 4-player gaming, which is especially great considering how good the GameCube controller was. If there is one thing that the GameCube was remembered for in a positive light, it's the controller. The most agreeable thing when it comes to praising the GameCube. Although I can't say that it's my favorite controller of all time because that's the Xbox One's controller, there is no denying that it's a fantastic controller. My favorite thing about it is how responsive the buttons are, especially the triggers. The orbital face buttons not only look cool, but are easy to navigate, and the grip feels comfortable. If I had to criticize one thing about it, it's the D-pad, which feels a little too small. But overall, it's an amazing controller and feels right at home when playing the multiple fantastic games that the GameCube offers. When it comes to what makes a console good, the design helps it stand out and gives you a first impression, and the controller determines how comfortable games are to play on that console. But those 2 points are completely irrelevant if a console barely has any good games, and the GameCube knocks it out of the park when it comes to games. This is true for both first-party and third-party games. Super Mario Sunshine remains to be my favorite Mario game. Eternal Darkness is one of the best horror games to date. Luigi's Mansion is still one of the best Mario spin-off titles. Metroid Prime successfully brought Metroid to a new genre. Animal Crossing was brought to the West. Wind Waker is widely considered one of the greatest games of all time. And third-party support was really strong, with games like Time Splitters, Soul Calibur 2, Resident Evil, SSX games, Beyond Good and Evil, etc. This is only a few of my all-time favorites, and it would take forever to list all of the fantastic games that you can find on the GameCube. While it is true that the GameCube overall had less games compared to the PS2 and original Xbox, I felt like more of the games that were released on it were great, and we got multiple timeless classics. While it is true that the GameCube had some issues, I can't help but feel like it ended up being my favorite console from the 6th generation. A lot of my all-time favorite games ended up on the GameCube, and I like pretty much everything about it outside of games. But the conclusion I'm making isn't that the GameCube is objectively better than the other 6th gen consoles, not even against the Dreamcast. In fact, I don't even think that there is a clear winner. All of them had their strengths. My conclusion is that people overlooked a lot of the best parts of the GameCube. While I don't think it's the most hated console, not even close, I don't think it's even disliked that much, at least not anymore. I can't help but feel like it's a bit overlooked when it comes to Nintendo home consoles, and it's hidden in the shadow of its successor, the Wii, which was so popular that it was pretty much in every household.